What's up, everybody? It's another edition of the Rant Network with David Solomon with his Mickey Mouse ears and his favorite corporation in America, or maybe not so much. But we're going to get into this because Wheel of Fortune, or is it not? Pat Sajak, is getting a little ripped in the media, David, and I got to tell you, I remember growing up watching Vanna White and Pat Sajak, but you know what? Somehow I think the wheel may not be in his fortune in Hollywood.
It's actually kind of funny you bring up Wheel of Fortune because last week Pat Sajak was asked about his retirement, and him and Vanna have both contracts till 2023, 2024. And he's been doing this since 1981. And the show started in the mid 70s by Chuck Woolery. And I'm a little bit older than you, and I remember Chuck Woolery and the ability to buy a dog, the Dalmatian, for $75, because that's in those days you had to buy your prizes with the money that you won. It was a different game. It was a lot of fun. But apparently today, buying love from the population, that from the left, from woke folk, ain't happening. Now imagine, here's a guy for 40 plus years has been coming into your living room in a game show. And all he does is he tells, he animates a game show. But he's also a known conservative. And recently, unfortunately, Pat Sajak did the unthinkable, unimaginable, horrific thing of taking a photo with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, for those of you who realize she's a little bit of a polarizing individual, I get it. And people don't really like the Georgia Congresswoman because of comments that she has made. But earlier in September, he took a photo, posted it on social media. Now, I didn't realize that, people, their hate, their visceral hate, their vitriol could be so poisonous. Pat Sajak is a human being who has a political inclination, who never expresses it on the TV show, who keeps it to, he does whatever he wants to do outside of work. But yet the left, the woke, don't like. We're going to break Pat Sajak. So already, despite the fact that he's talking about retirement in 2 years, they want to cancel him today because he took a photo with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, oddly enough, Chuck Woolery, his predecessor Stewart, who's also conservative, he's also, who's also voiced his displeasure towards the left and what have you. And the left has tried their best to destroy him. Stewart, this is just one example. Last week there were numerous examples, and we'll get back to another one in a second. But Stewart, I know you're itching to get jumping here.
I start getting upset and angry. What the fuck does Hollywood have to do with politics? I pay you because you're an actor, an actress, a personality. I don't pay you or a rock star or rock princess, whichever way you want to go. I don't believe that I'm paying you for your political opinions, nor do I pay you for your interjection in politics because you suck at it most of the time. I mean, Ronald Reagan may be the exception to the rule, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I don't know too many other actor or actresses that have come from the left, but they seem to have a big enough mouth. And, they don't put their money where their mouth is. Well, they do when, 50 people are dropped off in Martha's Vineyard. Then they all sort of lose their shit again. But, I don't get how politics and a personality for TV go hand in hand. I don't get it, David. I just don't understand why they must influence people in this way when this is not what they're being paid to give.
You know what? It just shows you the lack of sensibility where you're talking about the woke. I like last week, as we've said on this rant, I was in Miami. I was at a trade show, and all I heard was politics and your my way is right and your way is wrong, and there's no real in between anymore, and there's no respect. But what I find with the left, and they accuse the right of doing this, and it's interesting because if you look at what the left has done now, blaming the right for anti democracy, violence, and what have you, but they're the ones doing it as much as anybody else. And here, I have yet to hear anybody, a right wing conservative, wanting to cancel somebody on the left. So, Pat Sajak, whose only job is to entertain you, and you, by the way, have the choice. You could turn on and off the TV. It's your choice. But the notion again of canceling, and Stuart, there's another example of this, and this is like in Marvel. Marvel announced last week that they're going to have an Israeli superhero. It's a comic called Sabra. She is a mutant Mossad agent, let's call it that. And she will be introduced to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And of course, the left has lost its mind. Why? How dare they do anything with respect to promoting Israel in any way, shape, or form? Because this Israeli Palestinian conflict is mired with controversy. It's all Israel's fault. And how dare they bring in Shira Haas, who is a well known Israeli actress who has done a great job in the different projects that she's worked on. And here was the issue, the statement from Marvel Studios. While our characters and stories are inspired by the comics, they are always freshly imagined for the screen and today's audience, and the filmmakers are taking a new approach with the character Sabra, who was first introduced in the comics over 40 years ago. This is an article out of one of those woke magazines that has nothing positive to say about Israel. It's only about, destroying Palestinian villages by Zionist forces and Palestinian camps and blah 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 and massacres and on and on and on and on. Not one word of positivity towards Israel, nor are the facts even accurate. But that's what the woke likes to do. They like to distort, destroy, cancel, harass, boycott, divest, sanction, ruin. It doesn't matter.
David, are you surprised?
No, never
I'm
surprised with the
not.
woke.
I'm not surprised either. But David, we still got people like Pocahontas, Aladdin, and all these other ethnic um, superheroes. In some cases, there's villains to go along with it. But for whatever reason, that's okay. We can have a Pocahontas and we
No,
can
you see,
have an
but
Aladdin.
but even Pocahontas has now gotten ripped apart, and even everything else. I mean, look, shout out to Bill Maher who on Friday ripped the woke folk again, and he's been doing this quite a bit because all we tend to do today is destroy what we destroy history, we distort fact, all about promoting one's personal inclination. It has nothing to do with right and wrong. It's about destruction. It's about ruining. And there's it's fascinating that they talk about unity. I don't care if it's American unity, Canadian unity, British unity, French unity. It doesn't matter what unity you're talking about. There isn't any unity. It's either my way or go away. It's either my way or we're canceling and going to ruin you. Here at Concordia University, they're bringing again another anti-Israel, hardcore terrorist-like individual, and yet when the folks here are saying, "Hey, racist, watch what you're doing," they're being told, "Shut up. We're in the right, you're in the wrong." But if you were to bring in a pro-Israeli talker, speaker, if you brought in Alan Dershowitz, there would be absolute protests, smashing glass, as they've done here many times, because they're justified. That approach is what scares the hell out of people. And that's why you and I are getting, and I've had this from numerous people, David, you need to shut down the rant network because you're going to upset a lot of people. And I find it fascinating. And someone very close to me told me that the other day. And I said, I don't really care. He goes, but you could ruin your business this way. And I'm like, you know what? This is what we've become. We've become afraid.
David, the person that said and again, I hope they're listening, that said, you can ruin your business. You know what? I want you to take those words, whoever you might be, and understand that that's the only way to protect your business, to protect your freedom, and to protect your right to actually say that to someone and only risk getting punched in the face or get a drink tossed at you or get scolded verbally for being an absolute hypocrite. But at the end of the day, if the roles are reversed and we continue to follow that theory, David, be very careful. Don't talk about this. Don't do this. Shut it down. Then you know what? That person will inevitably lose their right to even say that
But
or
this is
utter
what the
a word
woke
against a
wants.
political party. I mean,
But
we're
this,
at the tipping point, David,
wait,
where yep. Go ahead,
no, I'm
David.
saying this is what the woke folk want. They want us to be scared of them. They want to silence. They want to censor, cancel. These are words that it's funny because if you turn it around on them, they're gonna freak out on you. Freak out on you. Like it's like to permit like the statement by creating a Marvel. Imagine we're gonna put a movie. Marvel's gonna put a fictional movie, and these pro-Palestinian organizations that are getting tremendous press in the United States are saying we're glorifying the Israeli army and police. Like when you make statements like that are completely not factual, but when you say it again and again and again, it must be fact. And now you have swayed generations of people. Look, I want to tell you something. I've said this. We have a lot of people right now in Canada angry at the left. Young people have finally woken up and going, something doesn't add up here. The words and actions that you're bringing forward do not add up. And suddenly there's a shift, a mindset that, you know what? They're wrong. There's a change that needs to happen. And what you and I are trying to do here, I'm not suggesting that you and I are superheroes,
No.
but I'm tired of getting crap.
Listen, my cousin, we always talk about my cousin Rupert, right? My
Poor Rupert.
cousin Rupert has two tones. We're mean, we're nasty, we're representing the deplorables, and that I'm smarter or we're smarter. I mean, David, I think that's the echo of most of Rupert's messages.
Mm-hmm.
And, the bottom line is because I have an opposing view doesn't make me mean. It doesn't make me mean to call out moronic opinions. And you know what? Dropping off these newly found immigrants that have illegally entered the United States in sanctuary cities isn't. I mean, David and I talked about this a year ago that we should start a GoFundMe, but they would shut it down to move people from the border that they're being overwhelmed. Imagine they flipped out over 50 people in Martha's Vineyard and the 5 buses in D.C. at Kamala Harris's residence. But let me ask you a question. What about the 1.999 million they dropped off in the border town's
Yeah,
door?
the problem
No,
here
no.
is, but to tie it all together, because I know Rupert's going to like now be mad at you, and this isn't the Rupert show here. But the problem is that this is what the left is trying to do. They're trying to
Yeah.
manipulate instead of, you know what, instead of, and Rupert, let's be realistic. And anybody who is a Democratic lover, we are not saying that you are the enemy, and we are not saying anything about it. It's just the same way. If I'm looking at a 6 from my angle, it's going to look like a 9 from your angle. We're both right. We're just looking at it from a different point of view. You can't tell me I'm wrong, but that's what you do. That's what happens here. That's what the left wants to push, the woke, the hard left. And if when liberals like Bill Maher and liberals like, to tell me that Alan Dershowitz in Martha's Vineyard cannot meet with people because he disagreed with the left on terms of impeaching Trump. The fascinating thing is that the woke lost their minds, liberals lost their minds. You never met a more liberal, socially liberal individual than Alan Dershowitz, but you turned him into the enemy because he didn't agree with you. But
Yep.
he's He has the legal precedents behind him. He had the facts.
Yep.
And just like everything else, facts don't matter, just emotion. And Stuart,
Yep.
we've reached the quarter hour.
We reached a quarter hour. David,
Yeah.
it's nice seeing you.
Good seeing you. Sorry I'm not there. Have a good week, everybody.